In 2009, American geologist Adrian Helmsley travels to India to visit his friend, astrophysicist Satnam Surutani, who is conducting research in a 3.5 kilometers deep copper mine and discovers that the neutrino flux caused by an unprecedented solar flare is heating up the Earth's core, with temperatures rising very rapidly. Although Adrian notes that such a thing is impossible, since neutrinos do not interact with the Earth's matter, Satnam suggests that the neutrinos in the flare are transformed into a new kind of particle that affects the Earth's core, heating it up. 20 hours later, Adrian arrives at a fundraiser at a Washington, D.C. hotel and tries to convince the president's chief of staff, Karl Anheuser, to read his report. Shortly after the reading, an agitated Anheuser demands a car and takes Adrian to report to U.S. President Thomas Wilson that this warming will set off a chain of events that will inevitably lead to a global cataclysm. At the G8 summit in 2010, accompanied by protests and riots, the U.S. president, in the absence of outsiders, even interpreters, informs the leaders of other states about the impending catastrophe. Then it was decided to start in China the construction of 9 giant ships, arks, capable of preserving mankind as a species. For the construction, the Chinese authorities resettle a village in the Zhouming Valley under the pretext of building a huge dam and recruit workers from local residents with welding and construction skills. In 2011, the sale of tickets to the arks begins among the wealthiest people on the planet at a price of €1 billion per person. In the same year, from the largest museums in various countries begins a hidden evacuation of the greatest works of art. Under the evacuation falls and Mona Lisa brush Leonardo da Vinci, which is replaced by an absolute copy, which can be recognized only through special equipment. The evacuation is carried out by Laura Wilson, daughter of the President of the United States, under the guise of preserving works of art from fanatics. In 2012, the day before the end of the world, Laura receives a call from Louvre director Roland, who was present when the Mona Lisa was replaced, and discovered that the bunkers where the displaced paintings should be are empty, and he is going to inform the public. However, his car is blown up in the same tunnel under the Alma Bridge, where Princess Diana died in 1997. At the same time, Jackson Curtis, a failed science fiction writer from Los Angeles, California, who moonlights as a limousine driver for Russian billionaire Yuri Karpov, takes his children for a weekend away from his ex-wife Kate, who lives with her boyfriend, plastic surgeon Gordon Silberman, and drives with them to Yellowstone National Park. In the morning, Adrian joins the president and Anheuser to discuss the geologic situation in California. Helmsley travels to Yellowstone to conduct research. There he encounters Jackson and his children, who have been detained for trespassing in a restricted area, and asks the captain who detained them to release them and take them to camp, as Adrian recognizes Jackson. After the incident with the campers, he discusses the situation with Satnam via satellite, and the latter asks him to start evacuating people. Adrian in turn orders him to pack up his family and belongings, and tells him that he will arrange a plane for him. In the evening, he flies out of Yellowstone, and later participates in a video conference of heads of state, at which President Wilson announces the beginning of boarding the ships. After the incident with the military, Curtis meets crazy conspiracy theorist Charlie Frost, who travels in a van and hosts his own radio show directly from Yellowstone Park, dedicated to the coming end of the world, which, according to Mayan predictions, should occur on December 21st, 2012. Charlie Frost tells Curtis that the world is headed for doom, and that he has a map that marks the secret location of where the arks will be built. He also shows a stand with newspaper clippings with obituaries of those who even tried to mention the arks and the impending disaster. Among the clippings, Curtis finds an old acquaintance who consulted him on the book. Lastly, Charlie tells Curtis that you have to be extremely rich to get on the ark. Meanwhile, Kate and Gordon find themselves at the epicenter of an earthquake that destroys the supermarket where they were shopping. The next day, Curtis and his children return home and go to work. Karpov, at the time in Las Vegas with his common-law wife Tamara, demands that he take his children to the airport to a private jet ready for departure. On the spot, one of the children blurts out that they have big ship tickets. As the plane takes off, Curtis feels a faint earthquake and a crack right under the limo. After listening to Charlie's radio show, he realizes he was right and immediately rents a private plane standing in maintenance at a hangar.
Still today, frame by frame, the best mega disaster movie. Others have tried to go further over the top, but here the balance between the special effects and the characters, the horror and the humor, is just perfect for this sort of thing.
I still like this film, at least the first half. The explosions and stuff. The second half and the arcs is just too much, even for me.
I'm surprised that whole sequence didn't even earn an Oscar nom, but it did earn a Satellite Award for Best Visual Effects and Sound Effects Editing.
I'm a people lover. I want to try and save as many lives as I can. Watching from the plane as people die is hard. People on the crumbling highway. The people in the buildings as they fall to the ground, dangling for their lives. All the screaming. This breaks my heart. I'm so glad my mom told me I couldn't watch it 14 years ago when it came out. My 8-year-old mind would have been traumatized. Now that I'm 22, I get it's just a movie, but I still wish they could have saved more lives.
I remember watching this movie in theaters with my van girlfriend at the time, and she was already being skeptical because I mentioned there's going to be a scene where Mother Nature is taking down Los Angeles, which is also where we live to this day, which is Los Angeles South Central, Los Angeles Ave. Scene came on, she started to weep, and then started crying drastically while holding my arm, using it as a shield to cover her eyes. I start to feel bad and told her this is not going to happen in the year 2012. Mind you, this movie came out in 2009 because she actually thought this was going to happen when I knew this was going to happen. At least not in the year 2012.
Even though this movie is so unrealistic. However, would say this movie bring out my nightmares to think 2012 is the end of the world. No other disaster movies came close, in my opinion.